He just dude crazy, like he just talk a lot of shit, and I just like to sit there.
NBA YoungBoy just dropped a bomb about Birdman, and it's wild. According to YoungBoy, Birdman's been using him and pulling strings to sabotage him behind the scenes. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. I've got all the details, so let's break it down. When things got too real, Lil Homie called out the OG. The streets had been talking, but nobody expected what dropped on June 9th, 2024, when DJ Academics posted that track on his YouTube channel. The whole who knew something was different. NBA YoungBoy's Tears of War wasn't just another diss record. This was straight up family business, aired out for everyone to see, and it hit different, more personal, more painful than anything we'd heard in a minute. Real recognizes real, and what YoungBoy laid down was the purest form of pain you could ever hear in someone's voice. What made the whole situation even more cold-blooded was that this track was the last thing YoungBoy recorded before the feds raided his Utah crib back in April, so he was already under pressure from all sides, dealing with legal trouble, industry snakes, and personal demons, only to find out that the man he looked up to as a father figure was playing games with his head and his money. The line that had everybody's jaws on the floor was when YoungBoy said what everyone in the streets already knew, but nobody wanted to say out loud. This wasn't subliminal. This wasn't coded. YoungBoy went straight for Birdman's neck with real talk that cut deeper than any physical beef ever could.
How's your relationship blossomed throughout the years?
He just dude crazy, like he just talk a lot of shit, and I just like to sit there. That's my fire. I like when he pop this shit, man.
Looking back at this clip, you can really see how naive Lil Homie was back then, talking about how he liked when Birdman would pop that talk, not realizing that all that flashy game was just part of a bigger hustle being run on him. The youngster was genuinely feeling the energy, thinking he'd found a real one, someone who would put him on, show him the ropes, and guide him through the industry. Little did he know, the OG was setting him up for the long con. Now, let's keep it 100 about who we're dealing with here. Brian Birdman Williams isn't just some random cat off the block. This dude's been running the game since before most of these young rappers were even born. Cash Money Records was his empire, a billion-dollar operation built from the ground up. Birdman mastered the formula: find young, hungry artists and mold them into superstars. His track record speaks for itself. He took Lil Wayne from a shorty in the projects to one of the greatest rappers alive, built Drake into a global phenomenon, and crowned Nicki Minaj the queen of rap. So when Birdman first noticed YoungBoy around 2018, he saw that same raw spark, the same hunger that reminded him of a young Wayne. The kid from Baton Rouge was already making serious noise with his street anthems and emotional confessionals. But there was another side to him too. The arrests, the legal drama, the chaos. All of it made him both a star and a liability for Atlantic Records to handle.
I think NBA YoungBoy might be the biggest rapper. I said that 5 years ago.
What you mean big when you say big?
Ain't no gonna be bigger than NBA YoungBoy. Numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
He the biggest YouTube artist right now in the world, and he behind the wall.
Birdman was really laying it on thick with the praise, talking about how YoungBoy was going to be the biggest thing since sliced bread. And you've got to understand, when a legend like Birdman co-signs you like that, it's like getting blessed by the rap gods themselves. At the time, Atlantic Records was struggling to figure out how to handle YoungBoy's constant legal drama and unpredictable moves. So when Birdman stepped up offering guidance, it seemed like divine intervention. The OG positioned himself as more than just a business partner. He was selling the dream of being a father figure to a young cat who desperately needed that guidance. YoungBoy had been through more trauma than most grown men, coming up in the streets of Baton Rouge, where you either make it out or become another statistic. He was used to surviving, not trusting. So when Birdman came through talking that real family talk, offering protection and wisdom, it was exactly what the youngster needed to hear. Their first collab, We Poppin' from Young Boys Until Death Call My Name album, showed the potential of what they could build together. The chemistry was undeniable. You had the veteran's smooth confidence, mixed with the young bull's raw intensity. When they later announced from the Bayou in 2018, it felt like the perfect marriage. Louisiana legends passing the torch to the next generation.
You hear me? But I'm just saying, when that little boy get his mind right, and he come from under this bull and understand who he is, cause you know, Thugger and all them, they up in age. They 30, it's 20.
But you think they going through ain't doing that but helping him to his path to do that, though?
Of course.
Yeah.
They ain't making them nothing but a monster.
Birdman was talking all that good game, saying YoungBoy's struggles were just molding him into something greater. The way he broke it down, all the legal troubles and street drama were just part of the process, part of creating a monster in the rap game for a young cat who was feeling lost and overwhelmed by all the pressure. Hearing that from a legend who had been through it all before was the validation he needed. But here's where the game got real dirty. While Birdman was talking all that father-son, mentor-protege love, there were cats in the streets who already knew what time it was. When From the Bayou finally dropped in December 2021, after multiple delays, real ones noticed it felt more like a YoungBoy solo project than a true collaboration. Birdman's name was on the credits, but his presence was minimal at best. The streets started whispering that something wasn't adding up. You had Birdman out here claiming the young bull like he was blood, but when it came time to really show up and put in work, the energy didn't match the talk. Then people started remembering how Birdman had been playing these same games for years, especially with how he did Lil Wayne dirty when Wayne tried to level up. The real ones in the know started trying to school YoungBoy about the patterns they were seeing. Lil Wayne himself even tried to drop some knowledge back in 2020 with that line on multiple flows. And I had told YoungBoy to watch out for old head. But when you're young and hungry, and somebody's promising you the world, it's hard to listen to warnings about the very person who's supposed to be your savior. Wayne's warning wasn't just casual advice between colleagues. It was a real one, trying to prevent another young soldier from falling into the same trap that almost destroyed his own career. Wayne had been through the full cycle with Birdman, from love and promises to lawsuits worth $151 million and withheld royalties. The game Wayne was trying to put YoungBoy up on was simple: don't trust everything that glitters, especially when it's coming from somebody with a history of leaving bodies in his wake. But YoungBoy was in a vulnerable spot. He was dealing with serious legal pressure and needed guidance from someone who understood the business. Birdman was offering everything he thought he needed: mentorship, connections, and most importantly, someone who claimed to care about his well-being beyond the money. As 2022 and 2023 rolled around, Birdman kept up the facade, even going as far as defending YoungBoy publicly when podcasters like Joe Budden tried to come for him. On the surface, it looked like a mentor protecting his protege from industry haters. But underneath that public support, cracks started to show. YoungBoy began to peep game. The promises that once sounded sweet were starting to feel hollow. The father figure love that had drawn him in was beginning to feel more like manipulation. And the unconditional support he thought he had was proving to be anything but unconditional. A realization that he'd been played by someone he'd trusted with his life and career hit YoungBoy harder than any physical beef ever could. Here was a young man who'd already survived more trauma than most people see in a lifetime, and yet, being betrayed by his supposed father figure cut deeper than bullets or court cases ever could. As 2024 rolled around, and YoungBoy found himself facing serious federal charges while under house arrest in Utah. The weight of Birdman's alleged betrayal became too heavy to carry. Known for always keeping it 100 in his music, YoungBoy decided it was time to let the streets know exactly what kind of games were being played behind closed doors. The result was a 6-minute confession, a track that didn't just expose his own pain, but the true nature of one of hip-hop's most powerful players. It was the realest diss ever. When pain turned into bars, when tears of war hit the internet, every real one in the culture knew they were witnessing something special. This wasn't your typical rap beef filled with tough talk and empty threats. This was pure, uncut emotion from a young man who'd been played by someone he considered family. Every bar dripped with pain you can't fake. The track opened with dark, haunting production that mirrored YoungBoy's mental state, the kind of energy that told you this wasn't just another day in the studio. But when homie started spitting, that's when the real damage hit. This wasn't just bars for the sake of bars. This was therapy meets street justice, and every word carried weight. The moment that shook the entire culture came when YoungBoy dropped that line about Stunner never loving him and how he should have listened to Carter. Real, recognize, real. And that line hit like a truth bomb. It was bigger than a diss. It was a young soldier admitting he'd been outmaneuvered by a veteran who'd been playing this game since before he was even born. The reference to Lil Wayne's warning wasn't lost on anyone who really knew the culture. Wayne had tried to school him about the kind of man Birdman really was, but YoungBoy was too caught up in the promises to listen now. He was publicly admitting he should have listened to the OG who had already walked that same painful road. What made the line so devastating wasn't just the admission of being wrong, it was the vulnerability behind it. In a culture where showing weakness can get you labeled as soft, YoungBoy was willing to wear his pain on his sleeve and admit he'd been played. That takes a different kind of strength, the kind that separates the real from the fake. As the track went deeper into the alleged betrayal, YoungBoy painted a picture of promises that never materialized and love that proved conditional. This wasn't about business disagreements, it was about emotional manipulation from someone who had posed as a father figure, only to exploit that trust for personal gain. The timing made it hit even harder. Recorded just before his arrest, YoungBoy was processing betrayal while staring down serious prison time. That vulnerability, isolation, and pain came through in every single bar.
You know, a lot of that's like go on in VR, you know, a lot of stem from New Orleans. You know, that's like where the real gangsters come from. That's where a lot of shit got bloody at first. That's kind of like where we learned a lot of
This clip hits different when you think about it in the context of Tears of War. YoungBoy had always shown deep respect for New Orleans and its influence on Louisiana culture, but the education he got from Birdman, one of New Orleans' most successful exports, came with lessons about betrayal and manipulation that he never signed up to learn. One of the most heartbreaking aspects of the track was how YoungBoy exposed his own emotional needs and how they'd been exploited. The young cat who built his reputation as a street soldier, a man unafraid to put his emotions on wax, where revealed just how much he needed the guidance and support Birdman had seemed to offer. The violation of that trust was even more painful because YoungBoy had genuine love for someone who apparently saw him as nothing more than a business opportunity. The financial implications didn't go unnoticed either. In the track, YoungBoy suggested that Birdman had dangled lucrative deals and opportunities in front of him without ever following through, a pattern eerily similar to the accusations Lil Wayne made during his own legal battle with Birdman, where Wayne claimed millions in royalties had been withheld. But what truly separated Tears of War from your typical diss track was the tone. Instead of anger and aggression, YoungBoy delivered pure sadness and disappointment. This wasn't an artist trying to destroy an enemy. This was a young man mourning the loss of someone he had loved and trusted. The pain in his voice was unmistakable. It hit different than any aggressive bar ever could. The track also revealed how deeply Birdman had inserted himself into YoungBoy's personal life. There were implications that the veteran had overstepped boundaries, getting involved in YoungBoy's relationships and private matters in ways that went far beyond what a mentor should ever do. This level of control and interference painted a picture of someone who used emotional manipulation as a tool to maintain power over a younger artist. The reference to Wayne's warning carried extra weight because it showed that this wasn't an isolated situation, it was a pattern. Wayne's relationship with Birdman had followed the same script: early love and support, followed by financial disputes, and eventually legal warfare. The fact that Wayne had tried to warn YoungBoy showed he recognized the signs of history repeating itself. The production choices on Tears of War only amplified its emotional impact. The melancholic instrumentation and sparse arrangement created space for YoungBoy's words to hit with maximum force. Every pause in his delivery, every crack in his voice carried meaning, emphasizing just how personal these revelations were. Industry heads quickly picked up on the broader implications. If YoungBoy's accusations were true, they painted a picture of a powerful figure who'd been using his influence to manipulate young artists for years. The behavior YoungBoy described aligned with the stories other former associates had told about Birdman in the past. What made it even more telling was Birdman's response, or rather, his silence. Instead of firing back with a typical aggressive counterattack like most rap beefs, Birdman chose to stay quiet. That silence spoke volumes. Either the accusations hit too close to home, or he knew that responding would only make things worse. The culture's reaction was immediate and divided. Some praised YoungBoy for his honesty and courage in speaking truth to power, calling the track a raw statement about exploitation in the music industry. Others questioned whether airing such personal business in public was the right move, but no one could deny the authenticity of YoungBoy's pain or the power in his delivery. The song also raised deeper questions about mentorship in hip-hop. The relationship between established veterans and rising stars has always been complicated, part guidance, part business, sometimes exploitation. YoungBoy's experience highlighted the dangers that arise when those relationships become too personal, or when power imbalances are abused. Tears of War became a wake-up call for young artists everywhere, a reminder to keep real ones around who can recognize when you're being played, even when you're too close to see it yourself. YoungBoy's willingness to admit his mistakes publicly turned the track into more than just music. It became a lesson, a reminder of how important it is to listen to those who've already walked the path you're on. As the initial shock began to fade, it became clear that YoungBoy had created something far bigger than a diss track. He'd crafted a piece of art that spoke to anyone who's ever felt the sting of misplaced trust or discovered that someone they loved didn't truly have their best interests at heart. The song served as both personal therapy and a public message to the culture. It showed that even the strongest soldiers can fall victim to manipulation, and that recognizing it, calling it out, and standing on truth is a sign of strength, not weakness. Most importantly, it proved that keeping it real sometimes means admitting you've been played, no matter how much it hurts your pride. From Street War to Peace Treaty, when real recognized real after Tears of War dropped, the entire hip-hop community was holding its breath, waiting to see how things would play out. The streets buzzed with speculation. Would Birdman clap back with his own diss, or would this turn into one of those drawn-out beefs that tear the culture apart? But nobody saw what happened next. The silence from Birdman's camp was deafening. Real ones knew that when an OG like Birdman doesn't immediately respond to being called out, it usually means one of two things. Either he's plotting something major, or the accusations hit too close for comfort. As months passed with no retaliation, it became clear that this wasn't going to follow the typical script of rap beef. What unfolded instead was something far more mature and real than anyone expected. By August 2025, word started circulating that both sides were open to having a conversation about squashing their differences. For those who had been following the situation from the beginning, this was a shocking yet welcome development. It showed that both men were ready to put pride aside for something bigger than ego-peace. The breakthrough came when they agreed to meet face-to-face in New Orleans, the city that had shaped both their careers and symbolized everything they loved about Louisiana culture. When that reunion finally happened, it was described as emotional, raw, and real. Two men putting their egos aside to have an honest conversation about what went wrong.
But what I realized what really happened, like, I don't know if it was an argument or whatever, he got in there and he was just like, yo, let's calm this down. Hold on. And he got both of them dudes who seemingly that could have been like a little situation. I don't know if it would be whatever. Just out of respect for him, they were just like, all right, we good. And then that's where I realized that's kind of like his worth, especially to these young dudes.
This clip from DJ Academics, where he talks about Birdman stepping in to handle a situation backstage, perfectly captures the complexity of their relationship. Even during their beef, there was still an underlying respect between both men. Birdman's ability to command respect and calm down heated situations showcased the same leadership qualities that had originally drawn YoungBoy to him as a mentor. The reconciliation process wasn't something that happened overnight. Both men had to work through deep hurt, bruised egos, and broken trust. For YoungBoy, meant confronting his own vulnerability, facing the pain of feeling betrayed by someone he had loved like family. For Birdman, it likely meant acknowledging that his actions had caused real damage to someone he once claimed to care about. What came out of those conversations, that was a more mature understanding of their relationship and a clearer sense of where things had gone wrong. Industry insiders said the reconciliation became possible because both men realized that their shared goals and mutual respect mattered more than their personal grievances. The first public sign that they had patched things up came in October 2025, when Birdman made a surprise appearance at one of YoungBoy's shows. The moment went viral immediately. The crowd exploded as YoungBoy brought Birdman on stage to perform. We pop in for the first time ever in front of a live audience. The energy was electric, and you could see it clearly. Despite everything they'd been through, the genuine chemistry between them was still there.
Yeah, but the reason why he gets so much respect is because he's so respectful with people when he meets them.
Nah, he is respectful though.
Yeah, he was so respectful. He didn't have to show me the type of love he showed me last night.
This observation about Birdman's character provides real insight into why the reconciliation was even possible in the first place. Despite all the business drama and hurt feelings, there was still a foundation of mutual respect that could be rebuilt. Birdman's reputation for treating people right on a personal level, separate from business dealings, suggested that the issues between him and YoungBoy might have stemmed more from miscommunication and unmet expectations than from any deep character flaws. The impact of their reconciliation was immediate and obvious. Birdman began traveling with YoungBoy on his Make America Slam Again tour, not just as a performer but as an advisor and protector of YoungBoy's financial interests. The veteran's presence served multiple purposes. It showed the industry that they were back on the same team, gave YoungBoy valuable guidance during a critical stage in his career, and ensured that the young star was maximizing every dollar during his tour run.
How many more millions we need for that next tour? About 300-400. How much? 300 to 400 million easy. 300 to 400. If she ain't talking, that don't even talk.
When Birdman started talking about YoungBoy potentially securing a $300 for $100 million tour deal, it became clear that their reconciliation wasn't just about personal feelings, it was strategic business. The veteran's experience in building massive commercial success stories was now being applied to YoungBoy, his career in ways that could benefit both of them financially. Their reunion also gave both men a chance to reflect and learn from what had gone wrong in the past. For YoungBoy, the experience reinforced the importance of setting boundaries and protecting his interests, while still staying open to rebuilding valuable relationships. The young star had learned to assert himself and demand respect without letting past pain hold him back from moving forward. For Birdman, the situation offered an opportunity to reassess his mentoring style and recognize how his actions impact the young artists he takes under his wing. The veteran had faced similar conflicts with previous protégés, most notably Lil Wayne, and this pattern suggested that some adjustments in his approach might finally be necessary.
And he pulled me aside and said, listen, man, on my mother, Miss Gladys, man, we're gonna do this interview, man. I don't hold nothing above that. So I'm saying on my mama, Miss Gladys, who passed away when he was 5, by the way. I'm telling you, we're gonna do this interview, we're gonna get it in.
Yeah.
We're gonna get it in.
This clip reveals Birdman's personal investment in maintaining relationships and following through on his word when he invokes his late mother's name while making promises. It shows a level of sincerity that goes far beyond business considerations. This personal, heartfelt approach to relationships likely played a major role in making the reconciliation possible. The public nature of their reunion also served an important purpose for the culture. In an industry where beefs often spiral into lifelong feuds, their ability to resolve differences set a positive example for other artists. Their reconciliation showed that pride and ego don't always have to block growth. When both parties are willing to sit down and have real, honest conversations, healing becomes possible. The impact on both of their careers was immediate and positive. YoungBoy benefited from Birdman's deep industry connections and business expertise during a critical period when he was transitioning from legal troubles back to focusing fully on his music. Birdman, meanwhile, strengthened his association with one of hip-hop's hottest young stars, reinforcing his reputation as someone who can both spot and develop major talent. Their reunion also opened the door for future collaborations and projects. Industry insiders began reporting that the two were already discussing plans for From the Bayou to a sequel to their original collaborative mixtape. The possibility of new music from the reunited duo generated serious excitement among fans who had loved their earlier work together. Most importantly, this reconciliation represented a rare moment of maturity in hip-hop culture. Rather than allowing their disagreement to turn into a lifelong feud, both men showed that it's possible to confront problems, learn from mistakes, and rebuild trust. Their example created a blueprint for how industry conflicts can be handled constructively instead of destructively. Story of NBA YoungBoy and Birdman, from mentorship to betrayal to reconciliation, ultimately serves as a real-life an example of the complicated dynamics that shape the music industry. It highlights both the benefits and risks of mentor-protege relationships, the importance of clear communication and mutual respect, and the power of redemption even after deep conflict. If you enjoyed watching this video, go ahead and click on any of the cards on your screen for more.